Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and anything in between, please remember while you're watching today, do leave us a comment with any suggestions that you might have for future episodes, or just if you've enjoyed the video, just to add anything at all. We really appreciate it, and we do check all the comments. So take it easy. Hope you enjoy the episode. Peace. See if Freddie does anything entertaining. Well, I reckon he's going to turn around, reposition, and fall back to sleep. Let's see. Oh, turns around, reposition. I'm going to go back to sleep.
Cats are so interesting.
Yeah, she has done exactly that. Look, he's going back to sleep. I mean, not the hardest thing to predict since they fucking sleep pretty much all day.
Ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, this is the Ramble and Rabbit Hole. Hope everyone is doing well. It has been a minute. We have taken a little hiatus whilst we've been trying to collect our minds, collect our energy.
I thought we'd just been eating Christmas dinners.
Still digesting the Christmas dinners.
We weren't doing anything, chat. We were just eating and
yeah, we were just been absolute couch potato and oh my God.
Typical over Christmas slack off.
I rang you up and you were stoned on the couch just playing video games.
I was all like squinty eyed, just playing games. It was good times though.
Yeah, but we've been doing things I would say is in line with looking after ourselves, but we're here. We're looking forward to getting this episode in, and today we're going to be talking about a rush to nowhere, impatience, and living in the moment. So the term a rush to nowhere, it kind of came to me, Jack. It kind of came to me on a car journey home from the gym, and I guess I don't know if you've ever done this, but you've sort of been quite in the moment. You're thinking internally whilst you're driving, and I find that my driving can be directly correlated to how I'm feeling, right? So if I'm rushing, I'm like, driving quite aggressively, not like unsafe. I just mean like I'm, being just a bit more forthcoming with my driving. Like I tend to be in a slightly more heightened state. Whereas if I'm kind of going with the flow, I'm chilling a bit more, my driving seems to be a bit more like, okay, I'm okay with being stuck behind this double-decker bus right now. It's okay. Yeah. I'm not in a rush to pull out, And I was driving home from the gym one day and it just occurred to me, it's like, it doesn't matter how much I cut in and out of traffic, how quickly I go, I'm gonna get where I'm going, no matter how quickly I drive there. And the one thing that really just sort of I noticed was that when I really thought this, when I really internalized this and it affected my driving, I was just, I was following the speed limits and driving really calmly, really just nice and cruising. I would notice that everyone else around me then became obviously more aggressive in terms of their driving, people overtaking me, going crazy fast. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, they're going to get home, okay, maybe a couple minutes sooner, but they're not taking this moment of driving, which we do a lot of in the West, right?
Yeah.
To just chill out a little bit. To just calm down. Like, we don't need to be rushing so much to get to nowhere just a couple minutes earlier. It's not what I personally don't think it's worth it. I mean, that's obviously the situation, but the analogy kind of goes a bit deeper than that, in the sense that sometimes we have to slow down to get where we're going in a better state, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're going to get to where you're going, so you might as well enjoy the journey, right? Kind of thing.
Fundamentally, yeah.
But we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to get to where we want to go quicker. And I mean that in terms of not the driving, but the, self-growth, improving. We try to get there as quick as possible, thinking that we need to. It's almost a
Mm,
mindset, I would say, that's probably or could be born from modern living. We always have, work deadlines. You got to be there at this time. You got to take your lunch at this time, and then you leave at this time. And we need these items for
mm,
now or whatever job it is. There's always a kind of a rush. There's
mm,
always kind of a pressure,
mm.
whether that's through probably starts at school. Again, you got to be here at this time. You got to do this, blah 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 blah, and that. I mean, for a starter, that format doesn't fit everybody very well.
Yeah.
You've got those people that get on with school fine, and then you've got those people that completely and utterly rebel against the school system or
Yeah.
even the work system. I've noticed with meeting a lot of self-employed people now that I'm self-employed is most of them are kind of the odd bods that just don't fit into that. They
Yeah.
tend to be people that don't like to be like the best way to say this would be they like to be their own authority. They don't deal well with they can work as a team,
Mm,
but they tend to want to do things at their own pace,
yeah.
which is absolutely fine, really.
Mm,
It's just, it's the same thing for everyone. It's whatever suits you best. But I think the conflict there is a lot of us are probably left school and maybe fell into a job that
mm.
we weren't really passionate about, but it just is getting us a good wage and we can progress to get a better wage. So it's a positive thing, but also a negative thing. Like you are getting the monthly money that you need to live off and everything, but if you're not truly happy in it and you feel bossed over, it can be quite a conflict.
Yeah.
Um,
Would
you're
you s-
getting one thing you need, but you're not getting
yeah.
the other.
Would you say that this has been a huge realization from becoming your own boss? Because as you say, this is something that you've recently started to do more so of, right? Like before
Yeah.
this, you've had jobs, right? You've
Yeah.
worked
Oh,
in
yeah.
offices, you've done
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
this kind of stuff, but
I
I
worked
mean,
for other people for
yeah,
like 15 plus
yeah,
years, including full-time care work.
mm,
And it's funny, I'm saying it before I forget it. That's why I've kind of cut in a
absolutely,
little bit. But you often don't realize something until you start doing something different. Okay. So
yeah,
obviously, and I kind of fell into the self-employed thing. Um, not through, the PT work originally, through something else,
okay,
and it you don't really realize it until you start doing it, and you realize the freedom, like, and also the excitement of it, of, like, you having to schedule the
yeah,
times with the client, and you having to you've got nobody else to rely on but yourself, so it's quite fulfilling organizing yourself, but also knowing that you've not got anyone giving you crap, like, when you mess up is
yeah,
really fulfilling. It wouldn't work. This is the thing as well. It wouldn't work for everyone. There's many
mm,
people that are much better suited to um, having a boss that's telling them what to do. Not in a like I don't mean that in a negative way, but some people work much better off having someone say,
yeah,
right, you come in at this time, you do this, this, and this, and then you go home. Some people are absolutely fine with that, and that's cool. But like I was saying, I didn't realize myself until uh, I didn't have a boss of how different that was. I hadn't experienced the other side of it, is what I'm trying to say. And when I did, I was like, "Oh, this works a lot better for me. There's something I feel a lot better,
mm,
a lot less pressure in general." There's still pressure, obviously. There's still because I need to sort my own stuff out, but yeah, there was just something about it that definitely suited me more.
yeah,
Um, and like I said, I didn't realize that until I'd started to do it.
nice man. Um, yeah, I would say that I'm somewhat in between these mindsets.
Mm,
I've never been fully employed. I've experienced it sort of offhand with obviously Twitch and obviously making money through that,
yeah,
whilst I was part time. But that's what I mean. I've only ever sort of sat somewhere in the middle of it. But
yeah,
um, I don't know how I would fare being fully self-employed. I think I'd enjoy it. I've not had a great time with having to answer to people, so I mean,
Yeah.
the only job I've really enjoyed having to answer to people is in my current job, where there is a lot of leeway. There's a lot of like, just get your work done, and you know, I'm not gonna be on your back 24/7. But as long as you're, you know, doing right by, obviously, what we're
Yeah.
assigning you, and you make
Yeah.
sure that you get your work done, then, you know, jobs are
And
good. But
and
I think,
so
yeah,
no, go on, carry on. Sorry.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think where a lot of people tend to have that sort of animosity to leadership is, it seems almost unfair in its
Mm,
like, the way it's almost laid out. It's it's not a simple case of like, here's some work to do, get it done, and that's grand. There always seems to be a lot of bureaucracy surrounding it that makes it almost even more tedious than it needs to be. Like, having to answer to people definitely
yeah. So
becomes over bloated to an extent.
yeah, and I was gonna touch on that. Like it's absolutely possible to have a really great boss and really good support,
Yeah.
but I do think that's more likely if you have worked towards something, and also that when you do an interview, you're not willing to kind of settle for just
Mm.
whatever comes your way. Because sometimes it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can have this job, and you're like, yes, because money, yay, I'm sorted. But I think and I've seen this in your Discord, actually, interestingly enough, and
Mm.
obviously I won't mention names, but there are certain individuals that I've seen um, that seem to complain about their job a lot, and in terms of like whether it's management or dealing with different individuals. And I think
Mm.
there's certain jobs that you're very lucky if you do get a good boss that actually cares, that's,
Yeah.
not and you can also get within certain lines of work, the almost like the power tripping individuals where
Yeah.
they like that they've got that control, and you're almost seen as the lower, the lower life form that needs to do this and this. And I've heard, like, man, some horror stories
Yeah.
about just really poorly run organizations, and it's not really uncommon. That's the thing. Like, we create all of these systems, and we have all of these kind of what they called. I don't know if it'd be like safeguarding or stuff like that, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is we have these systems in
Bureaucracy, right?
place.
It's just
Yeah,
layers on layers of bureaucracy that tend to just overbloat the sort of premise of just like, have a job, do your work, get it done, go home. And
yeah,
then you've got all these other layers, and then, as you say, some people have managers on managers, so more than one person to be responsible towards, and
yeah.
sorry,
And
accountable towards, and yeah, it just gets
yeah, but
blown
and
up.
what I was getting at is that
Yeah.
on paper we have all of these written, what are they called? The words completely escaping me. Not rules, but things to almost protect the employer employee.
Yeah.
Um, and on paper they sound great, but it
Well, just
doesn't always.
contracts, just like,
Yeah,
yeah.
contracts that are saying that you'll
Yeah.
be looked after. If you've got an issue, you report it, and
Mm.
that's what I'm saying is, yeah, they on paper it sounds great. Yeah, if you've got an issue, report it to management, and it's like the reality is you've got an issue, you report it, nothing happens,
Yeah.
um, and then it's like, well, what are you gonna do now? And
Yeah.
yeah, you can take it higher up the chain, but there's plenty of horror stories where there's almost like cliques within businesses
Yeah.
where you're just not going to get anywhere, and basically becomes bullying. Like I've seen instances like that where people are working somewhere and they're basically just getting bullied, and they're clearly not liked by the other members, like, of management and stuff. And
Mm.
yeah,
It's
it's a
easy.
shame.
It's easy to get sucked into all that, and I think it actually
Mm,
definitely points back to the initial point of sort of impatience and living in the moment, and actually taking in exactly where you want to be instead of just constantly
yeah.
going with the grain, as I was saying with the driving. Like,
Hmm.
obviously, as soon as I started to slow down, I noticed that the world around me was going at its pace,
Yeah.
and that life is going at its pace. And
because you were
sometimes,
mentally fighting it, right?
exactly. So you just go with it. You just do what
Yeah.
everyone else is doing, and you don't take that moment to just be like, hang on, well, what is best for me, right? You know,
Mm.
it's so easy. The one thing I noticed about myself is that I became very much a people pleaser, both by certain individuals that I've obviously lived with my entire life,
Yeah.
but also because I was almost like, I guess, to an extent, groomed like into
Mm.
these management structures very early on.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, where I would be passed from manager to manager, and I just sort of got swept away with conforming to this idea that my self-worth is based on whether or not my manager approves of me or not, right?
Yeah, there you go.
There it
Yeah.
is, right?
Yeah, yeah, there you
Um,
go.
and that definitely caused me to just hate myself, because I
Yeah.
would find that you can't ever accomplish this, by the way. Like, this is the one thing
Mm.
I really notice, is that people pleasers will never be able to be fully satisfied with themselves, because no one can fully, they're chasing something that they can only get from themselves, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fundamentally it. It was just, as soon as I stepped away from that and realized that the power is always within me, to
Yeah, yeah.
slow down, to take accountability for how I process myself through my life, and that my actions directly affect my outcomes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And no one else's approval or disapproval or anything has any, like even in these episodes, Jack, like there's a
Mm.
certain level of like, I hope this user loves me, I hope this viewer
Yeah.
accepts me. Like, the idea of rejection and the people pleaser, it really does come out even in these episodes, and I
It's
feel it
we're
in
it's
my body
another
language.
it's another conditioning thing, right?
Yeah.
Because even from school, it's like, are your grades good? Is your parents' evening?
Mm,
Is the teacher telling your parents, is he
yeah.
doing good? Is he doing bad? What can he improve on? It is all coming from other people, and
Yeah.
it has to really come. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be pleased of approval from other people if we respect those
Mm,
individuals. Now, this is another thing. This is a whole different thing in itself. Like,
mm,
you have to then gauge how good you are at judging someone and whether or not they deserve your respect and your time to
mm,
listen to what they've got to say about you or your work, right? Um, but ultimately, it should come from yourself.
mm.
If you're really happy with something, you shouldn't then be talked out of that by somebody else because you're happy with it. That
Yeah.
doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. If you're happy with something,
Yeah.
then you do you kind of thing. Um, so yeah, it's another interesting one that's I would say is again almost conditioned into us from an early age.
Yeah.
First, it's school, then it's like your job,
Mm,
uh, and obviously parents and things like that. And it's not. I'm not saying it's a bad thing,
mm,
but especially the Western world doesn't do a great deal of self-empowerment.
mm.
It's
Yeah.
always from a system. Does the system approve of you?
Mm, yeah.
No.
Our education is
Yeah.
just cut and dry, that
Mm.
verbatim, isn't it? It is just,
It's
what?
pretty boring and
Yeah.
unimaginative,
Mm,
and
yeah.
I feel like it can absolutely be a really positive thing, and some people absolutely love school, and it does inspire them, and that's awesome.
Mm,
But also for a lot of people, it saps the kind of the I don't know, like the enjoyment of life, the kind of creative side. Like just one case in point, I used and I, funnily enough, actually, I something that I picked back up very recently
mm,
after years of not doing it all is drawing. Right, that's a very
mm.
creative
Yeah.
thing. I loved drawing before I went into school. I drew with my father from a very early age, just like what I'm doing with my son now.
Yeah.
But when I got into school, and I'm a young boy that likes to draw skulls and battlefields and kind of gory stuff, right? And I get into my first art lesson in secondary school, and they say, draw these flowers, draw this can, draw this bottle. And I'm like, No, I have no interest to draw that. Like,
Yeah.
I could remember saying to the teacher, "Can't I draw a skull? Like, can't I draw something?" And obviously, I couldn't because it wasn't, it wasn't part of the art curriculum or whatever. And like from that moment, I just like drawing just kind of
Yeah.
slowly lost my passion for it, which is a shame. I'm glad I've picked it back up, but
I am. Yeah.
there's a
It's
lot to be
been
said
nice to see the
for
it's been nice to see the drawings you and your son have been doing.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot to be said for losing creative ability,
Mm.
and that it's sad because we're creative beings.
Yeah.
It's sad when something saps your passion for uh doing something creative.
Yeah.
And that was my personal experience with school.
Mm.
I think I only really liked music, um, and business. I only liked business because my teacher was really cool, and this is nothing to do with business really, but he would ask me about like how the band was going and what I was
Mm.
doing and talk about martial arts and stuff like that because I think he did taekwondo,
Mm.
which I wasn't doing martial arts at the time, but he just seemed like a cool dude that wanted to talk to you more about just school stuff.
It's incredible how even just that probably made business studies infinitely more enjoyable as
I
well,
think I
right?
actually did okay. Well,
Yeah.
for me, I didn't really do good at anything in school, but I think I
Mm.
actually got like a pass in business. So
But that's it,
that was
isn't
one
it?
of few. Yeah.
It's sometimes it's not even the subject. It's the person conveying the subject and how they
Yeah.
convey it and what intentions they're sort of putting behind that, right?
Yeah.
Which is hugely important because I found as well, like music was the only subject that I felt in school that I truly just, this is awesome. This is where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
You can't pigeonhole a creative art though. That's the thing. And I guess when you try to, in the case of obviously you and art and just like draw a can, draw all these very
Yeah.
basic shapes, it's like, yeah, it's a one size fits all, but it just stomps your creative sort of energies,
Yeah.
right? The passion to put into something that's in your mind and ready to go onto paper. So
With music, it was I don't think I particularly liked the normal lessons, but every now and
mm,
then they would be like, right, get in a group of three, and you're just gonna go off into a room and kind of create something
yeah.
for yourself. That was when I started to realize, oh, this is and it was
Mm,
because again, I wasn't copying something off of paper. I wasn't playing somebody else's music. I was creating something with a group of other individuals,
mm,
and that's what got me into a band because I straight away I was like, "This is cool. I
yeah.
really like this. This like invigorates me." Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was again, it wasn't following the normal format of the lesson. It was just on the off chance the teacher was like, "We're going to do this today," and yeah, I latched onto that. I think because I got into a band shortly after that because at dinner times we started to just jam, like
Mm,
just use the drum kit and just jam out,
yeah.
and then it went from there.
That was a huge thing for me, man. I spent most of my time alone in secondary.
Mm,
So being able to go to the music rooms and being able to just just try drums, right? Obviously I
yeah.
was a kid, had no tutoring for drums.
Mhm.
Um, but to just be able to sit behind her and just get creative, just have a go and learn. And then I started doing lessons and then, ended up tutoring myself a little bit later down the line once
Yeah.
I got into my 20s, early 20s. And it's just, yeah, it's incredible where these little sort of like bursts of passion can like get you. Um, and I think fundamentally, I loved my music teacher as well. He was a huge
Mm,
inspiration. He was really cool, fucking
nice.
really cool
That's what you
guy.
want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, really cool. Funny enough, he actually ended up moving to another school and he taught one of my baby cousins. It's quite
Nice.
funny. Yeah, that was fun. But yeah, I think these creative outlets are very important, and I think everyone has the capacity to dive into them. And I think it really does help you live in the moment and get away from the rush of life, get away from the
Yeah.
traffic. It allows you to really just sit in the moment and work on something and just exist in a very almost in a spiritual way. To be honest, it allows you to tap into who you are. It helps you discover who you are.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
kind of what sets us apart, right? Is
Mm.
that we have the ability to create.
Yeah.
We have the ability to put thoughts into physical ideas, and I think that's kind of what it is to be human, right? So if we're not doing those things in whatever way it is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be music. It doesn't have to be art. It's just anything that is like creative.
Mm.
It can be your job. Like it can be
Yeah.
something within your job. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's important. Even I would say essential that we do creative things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and I know that obviously I can't speak for everyone, but I know for myself, it's kind of the quickest way to make me feel pretty dull and like I'm not really doing anything rewarding in my life. Luckily, I now have a job where I feel like it's very creative because I'm constantly talking to people and I'm constantly like adjusting form and getting the perfect position for an exercise, and I'm seeing progress. I'm always like um a tool for the individual to create their own progress. So I'm seeing a lot of change in that way, within them getting fitter or mentally feeling better. So that's very rewarding for me.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how,
Mm.
in what kind of line of work it is or in what hobby you do. I just think it's important to have creativity in our life for sure.
Yeah. I think that's a great closing point, Jack.
Yeah, definitely.
Super stoked to be doing this again, because this is
Absolutely.
also a creative endeavor. So
Shout out to Frederick in the background there if you've got him in, just having a little
hold
cat
on,
nap.
let me just
See if we can-
muggle him in. Hold on, there he is.
Freddy. Just the ear move, literally just that's it. That's all I'm getting. See the ears just what do you want, Dad? He'll be there. He'll be there till tonight. Like, that's what
Really?
he does. He just sleep all day. And then
Goddamn
tonight he'll
cats.
kind of get up and sit at the top of the stairs, and that's it.
Yeah, well, Freddy's getting creative, living in the moment.
Yeah.
Lovely.
He's just meditating the whole time.
Yeah,
He's
constantly.
enlightened.
Just imagine cats. All that goes through their head is just constant existentialism. Why do I exist? What is my purpose?
He does have that face, to be honest. So you could believe it.
Dude.
Definitely.
But yeah, guys, thank you so much for checking out this episode. If you enjoyed, please be sure to subscribe, to drop a like, and if you have anything that you would like to drop in the comments, anything that you would like us to maybe discuss in a future episode, that'd be super awesome to hear. Yeah, see you guys hopefully very soon. Until next time, peace.
Goodbye.
Bye. Nice.